therapy to these kinds of people is a cruel and it's a bad thing. So therefore we should buy it. And also it is I think it's no proof to it is changeable, but even if it is changeable, it is a rate or possibility to change is really, really low. So therefore we should buy it because it is a cruel and it is against humanity. So this is our case, and they totally miss the case, and they just say it's a free choice. Yeah, when we are talking about the free choice, we are analyzing what kinds of choices they will take. But they just say free choice, free choice, free choice. But we are talking about gay therapy, okay? Yeah.
Let me get this straight. You're saying that being forced to watch straight porn for 5 hours is worse than a person being stuck within a conservative family. You're not being able to change and continue.
Yeah, that's a very good point we mentioned. Yeah, it's both bad. I'm sorry for that, but the living in such kind of conservative community as a gay is painful, and also such kind of the gay therapy is also painful. But the thing is, such kind of gay therapy is nothing work because the opposition side never analyze why going there is make them happy, why going there is makes them better. At least such kind of people who live in the society, they can hide the identity, or they at least don't have to see such kind of crazy video, or maybe they no need to get the electronic shock or some kind of other thing. And furthermore, my partners already told you how this banning this such kind of therapy is changing the perception of the people. At least our side is better. They just say going. I don't know what's happened after that, but going is fine. I think that is irresponsible, and they have to explain that, but Tominaga, it's too late. Okay, so firstly, I was ready to deal with the successful case, what Sayaka told you about. So firstly, as my partners already told you, such kind of successful case doesn't exist, and even if that exists, I won't doubt it. So simply because such kind of people who say I become straight, they have to say so. So simply because they don't want to see the 5 hours gay video, or they don't want to be an electronic shock or scolded or so forth, so they are forced to do so. And there is no medical evidence, so therefore we say, fundamentally, we don't believe the successful case successful case exists. And even if that is true, that the possibility to success is too low, because even they can say 2 or 3 people can say they become straight. That's all. So such kind of too low possibility rate is unacceptable because too much harm exists, but the successful benefit is too low. So therefore we say, as a government, we can't accept. And even if the successful case exists, so as Thomas said, it is a cruel and anti-humanity, so therefore we cannot accept that. So that is my simple question. And also about the religion or sometimes the other things, even if the religion doing the serious things, we allow it. But I don't think so. If the religion people, it's a religion, it's torture people or scoring people or doing sometimes the crazy things, actually we try to banning the cult or so forth. So therefore we say we are not allowing the 100% freedom of choices. And also the more bad things is such kinds of gay therapy pretended as the medical therapy. They say medically is approved, and I am the doctor, I'm doing such kind of things. And such kind of things is just frauding the people, and we say that these are also bad things. And if they want to talk about the gay therapy not related by the doctor, but doing sometimes the crazy things, I don't think it exists, but yeah, I think that is out of debate. So we are basically talking about California or in some states, the people pretend it is a medical treatment and I am a doctor and doing such kind of gay therapy. And what's the principle we are saying to you is if it is medically proved and it is workable, we are very happy. Because basically what Sayaka said is a totally good thing. If the people can sexuality, of course they should do that. So, and their argument is totally okay. And what we say about Yuki's argument about the gender or blah blah blah. As Thomas already pointed out, the gender is changeable. You cut down and adding something, and yeah, that's all. Yeah, it is medically possible. So therefore, we say we are very happy to changing such kind of gender, and it is also it has the benefit because the sexuality and gender match, and we can okay. But but the thing is, such kind of changing sexuality is a sci-fi. It doesn't exist. And it very simple question. And finally, about the even after taking proposal, such kind of idea, so that means a gay is a disease, doesn't disappear. So I want to attack finally this point. So firstly, so such kind of anti-gay or anti-gay stories, so for example, like the people hate the race when maybe 50 years ago or so forth. The people hate the black people and they are not human and we have to treat it as differently, but gradually change. But why the gay people, but why the discrimination towards the gay or sexuality doesn't change? That's simply because, as my person's already told you, such kinds of therapy exists. It's defining the gay or sexuality itself as a disease, and they claim medically it's the bad things or so forth. So that is the core part of the difference between the race or so forth. The people accept race is unchangeable, but the people doesn't accept that sexuality is identity because people believe it is changeable. But we say that is a core part and we directly attacking this part. And in maybe the near future or maybe the forever or sci-fi situation, if sexuality becomes changeable, we are very happy to accept it. Or maybe even the race or even sometimes the other cases, we are happy. But in our society, it is impossible until we can find the new brilliant so we cannot accept these kind of things. So therefore we say as a government, we are very proud to propose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please now try to call for the opposition with here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So two things from the opposition whip. The firstly, like whether or not the fact that it is difficult for those surgery to work is sufficient reason why they should take this proposal. And secondly, I'm going to talk about the importance of a choice, which was barely effectively responded to by that side of the House. So first and foremost, whether or not their reasoning is a sufficient reason why we should ban this kind of gay therapy. Because, Mr. Speaker, during the convenient example, for example, surgery, which has extremely low success rate, or for example, medicine, which does not work, and because those things are defrauding, we should ban all those kind of things with low success rate. First of all, a lecture about the criminal law, Mr. Speaker. If you provide false information, if you deceive someone to pay a certain amount of money, Mr. Speaker, then that is a crime which is applicable to those surgery, which they are example. And also in this case, Mr. Speaker, for example, doctor says, doctor provides false information about, for example, the possibility of success, and then the doctor deceive the person to provide benefits, namely the money, Mr. Speaker, in return for the service they provide. That is a fraud, that is a crime. The law does apply for this kind of community too, so that's simply a matter of information, a matter of enforcement of criminal law. But secondly, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, there's a distinction between their example and this specific case. What is the distinction, Mr. Speaker? Because, to be just reasonable and fair, Mr. Speaker, we don't think there is a reasonable reason why people want to take, for example, surgery or medicine which has zero success rate, Mr. Speaker. There's no reasonable ground on which people want to take this kind of medicine or surgery. But on the other hand, we provided all the reasons why. Even though, Mr. Speaker, with near to zero success rate, there are certain people who actively want to go through this kind of gay therapy, Mr. Speaker. Even though they know they might not be successful, they want to try, Mr. Speaker, to change their sexual orientation because that is something important. And therefore, that is a distinction. Whether or not there's a real reasonable necessity for the people to take this kind of choice, that is a crucial distinction between their example of, for example, surgery or medicine, Mr. Speaker. So more closer analogy would be, for example, what Yuki provided to you. Even the surgery with, for example, inflicts certain pain upon the people, for example, chemotherapy, Mr. Speaker, those things may not work, those things may have, for example, undesirable, Mr. Speaker, undesirable consequences which cannot be known beforehand, but still, we allow, for example, people with disparate illness to go through chemotherapy because there is a serious necessity for the people to access that kind of surgery. The exact same thing applies. Although the gay therapy might be something difficult, something painful, or it might have extremely low rate of success, but still there's a desperate need, a serious need on the part of the people who actively do choose to go through this kind of therapy. We should allow it just like chemotherapy, and therefore the conclusion of this section is that their example does not apply, Mr. Speaker. We provide more close analogy, and therefore, as long as there's a necessity for the people to go through this kind of surgery, regardless of the success rate, Mr. Speaker, and we should allow this kind of choice. And therefore, at this point of the debate, we principally win this issue, Mr. Speaker. Now, they talked about how, Mr. Speaker, in the style of school, there's, for example, people are forced to watch, for example, porn, and also they're forced to masturbate for a constant time, and that is something bad. Now, firstly, we don't see how that is realistic for the majority of cases, but much more importantly, Mr. Speaker, they never discuss what's going to happen under their model, Mr. Speaker, because we're talking about an extremely conservative community who are happy to force people to go through that sort of traumatic things, and therefore, even under their proposal, it is extremely realistic to assume that people will be bullied every constant time. For example, when they go to school, when they go to, for example, church and so on, they'll be bullied every constant time for the reason that they are being gay, and also they are not even trying to change, Mr. Speaker, that according to their belief, maybe sinful characteristics, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the harm they talked about is going to occur in a different way, but as severe way as they explain, which is happening in the style school. And therefore, the harm is not exclusive to the style school. That's not a reason to deny the choice, Mr. Speaker. So they talked about how people feel they have betrayed the God, but that self-recognition is going to get worse under their model again, Mr. Speaker, because they are not under their model. They are not even trying to, Mr. Speaker, change what they see as sinful, and therefore that is a worse betrayal toward the God, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, self-recognition is going to get worse. Furthermore, in terms of the external recognition, they literally never explain how the mindset is going to change by the imposition of the state. By the certain gay therapy does not ban the idea itself, does not change the mindset, and therefore conservative people will still have pernicious attitude toward the people who are not going through the gay therapy under their proposal. Now, the reason why our model is much better in terms of recognition is that what Simon provided in her second substantive, she clearly talked about how there will be a discourse in the status quo. The reason is because, Mr. Speaker, the gay therapy is an attempt to change the homosexuality, Mr. Speaker. So it sees homosexuality as a disease which is supposed to be cured, and therefore that vitalizes the discourse about whether or not it is a characteristic or disease, whether or not it is something which should be embraced as a characteristic, or whether it is something which is supposed to be cured, Mr. Speaker. Because of the unique nature of gay therapy, which attempts to see homosexuality as a disease which is supposed to be cured, this vitalizes discussion about whether or not it is something which should can be cured, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, some of the conservative people who are not so fixed about their mindset may have the opportunity to change their idea, Mr. Speaker, that it is actually a characteristic, not a disease, and therefore, in terms of recognition, Mr. Speaker, external and self-recognition, our model is much better because of the discourse. I take a point.
No, because your side conceives of it as a disease, and because your side conceives of it as a choice, therefore conservative communities refuse to accept gay people in their mix. You perpetrate the very thing you want to solve.
Just because we allow gender reassignment, we are not saying that gender is something which should be changed. Just because we allow, just because we allow that sort of surgery, which tries to change certain characteristics, we are not seeing it as something which is supposed to be cured. We are just providing a choice. That is exactly what we're providing to you. Moving on to my next one, which is about the importance of choice. Now, we gave the example of religion, Mr. Speaker. The cult is banned because of the external harm to the people outside the group, Mr. Speaker. The religion, Mr. Speaker, there's no science which says the God does exist, Mr. Speaker. Furthermore, when people opt into the religion, they cannot do certain things. For example, they cannot use contraceptives sometimes, or they cannot eat certain things and so on, Mr. Speaker. Although there is a possible harm to the people who obtain the framework, we still allow it, Mr. Speaker, although there is no scientific proof, Mr. Speaker. That is exactly the same thing. Furthermore, we say, since sexuality is something so, Mr. Speaker, personal and important, we should at least allow people to try. Now, Corky said we never talked about happiness, but that is obviously not true, Mr. Speaker. Even if people cannot actually achieve their goal, Mr. Speaker, it is much better for the people to have a satisfaction, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Speaker, or admire themselves for trying to change, Mr. Speaker, what they see as something undesirable, what they sometimes see as something sinful, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, at least by trying, they are having this, Mr. Speaker, positive recognition toward themselves, and furthermore, admire themselves. That is the exact happiness we should afford them to do so. Because who are you to adjudicate what is happiness and what is unhappiness? We should allow these people to achieve their own version of happiness by trying to change, and therefore we are extremely proud of those.
Okay, thank you very much for the speech. Now I'd like to hear the part 2 presentation.
remind ourselves of the people that we're talking about. Who is this debate about? It's about people that are suppressed right now. It's about people who are oppressed by their sexuality within their communities, within their families, by the people they should be trusting the most, by the people who are most closest to them. They're being oppressed, right? They're told on a daily basis that their existence itself is a sin against God, that their existence itself is something that needs to be changed, and that is just simply wrong, right? We're talking about the most vulnerable actors in society, the people who are suffering the most right now. We told you, because it's about these people, choices are important. Because we're talking about such individuals who are oppressed to such extent, we told you we need to recognize that choice, right? Because we're talking about sexuality also, something which is personal, private, and important to an individual, right? And we told you many analysis from our side of the house, why when we're talking about something which is so innate to a person, so important to a person, the government does not necessarily have the right to make that decision. We told you why individuals need to be given the right, and individuals need to be prioritized into being able to make that choice and to achieve their form of happiness. That's why we said, even in the other YouTube speech, right? Who are you to adjudicate what makes you happy, right? Because at the end of the day, it's something personal to these individuals, and the best result, only these people know. Therefore, from our side of the house, we don't really care if it doesn't work or if it works. That's not the debate. Even if it doesn't work, we still believe that the choice is important and the choice should be given. And therefore, the moment choice started speaking, we just practically won this debate, right? But moreover, let's just look at the things that they gave from their side of the house. They said, number one, it never works. It never works. It never works. And then they ended by saying, it never works. The reason is because you can't record medically, right? Number one, we told you from our side of the house, even if that's true, even if it's medically not recorded, and even if it never works, we questioned them multiple times. Why is an efficacy of proposal the best criteria to decide whether to legalize it or ban it? No answer from their side of the house. Whilst on our side, we told you choice is something that needs to be prioritized. But secondly, we told you that whether it was effective or not is based on individual perspective, right? Therefore, as Sarah told you, in some cases in California, people say it works, others say it doesn't. So you can't necessarily make that fundamental judgment that it works all the time or it doesn't work all the time, because, as I pointed out in my POI, you can't really medically calculate who you like, right? But moreover, the comparison is this. Based on all of that, or compared to the harms of these individuals forced to sit in a chair and watch porn for 5 hours a day. Like, really, is that the best harm they've got? That's not enough to win this debate. But the second harm, again, is they'll suffer from watching too much porn within these controlled environments. Again, the comparison. Is that harm big enough to stop people from trying to get out of oppression that happens on a daily basis? To try and get out from their communities, to try and make a change, to try and achieve a better life? We think that just by saying they'll probably suffer by watching straight porn isn't good enough. But moreover, let's talk about discourse, right? On the our side, as Sayaka told you right at the very end, not really engaged by their side of the house, we told you get better discourse because now you have more counter-narrative happening and you have more open discourse regarding this issue. On their side of the house, even if you ban it, nothing's going to change. The people are still going to suffer, the people are still going to have this counter-anti-gay feelings, and therefore these people are going to suffer under both scenarios. They're still going to suffer, even under their best case scenario, these people are still going to be oppressed until the end of their life. The question is, should we do something about it? Our side thinks yes, because we recognize the importance of trying to save people, of trying to become a good government in order to save and in order to prioritize the happiness of the people. Their side, I don't know what they want. Their goal, I don't know. But from our side of the house, one thing is clear. We're protecting the most vulnerable in society, and that's why we win.
Thank you very much for the speech. Now that we'll hear the reply to the government.
They say they don't care whether or not this procedure works or whether it doesn't work. So let's ask ourselves today, when this procedure fails, as it has always done, as there's zero medical literature saying that it works, which is different, by the way, from chemotherapy, which, is a medical procedure which is documented to work, or other kinds of surgery which are documented to work in some cases and accepted by the medical community. When it fails, as it will, are the individuals better off or worse off? And is society better off or is it worse off? Let's look at this debate from that perspective. They say these people feel oppressed. There's a desperate need for them to change their identity. This is not the solution to their problems. This is not the solution to their problems because it isn't going to change their identity, because they're going to have the exact same identity afterwards as they had before it started. Only now they're going to feel like they're a failure. Only now they're going to feel like their identity is a choice and they're just failing to choose the right one. They're going to feel like sinners. And if what the solution is that then they just hide their sexuality, well, they could do that under either paradigm. You can hide your sexuality under either paradigm. So unless this fundamentally changes your sexuality, it doesn't do anything meaningful for you as an individual. They said it's important that these people feel like they're trying. It's important to feel like they're trying until you failed. Then you don't feel very good about trying. Then you feel like you're dirty. Then you feel like you're a sinner. Then you feel like you failed to make the right choice, and you feel even worse about yourself than you did before. Except now you've gone through an extremely traumatic procedure that had no chance of succeeding, and now you have to live with that experience going into the future day after day after day. Just because there's a problem doesn't mean that this is the solution to the problem. In fact, it's obviously not the solution to the problem because it doesn't work. Now, let's next think about what happens at the societal level when we have a strong group of people who are out there saying gayness is a choice. It can be changed. You can choose better. All you need to do is take this therapy. Well, they try to tell you that this is discourse, and that when there's discourse, it gets better. Not if it's the wrong kind of discourse. Not if what's added to the discourse is a pernicious lie that makes people feel like less, that makes people feel like they're sinners and they're dirty, and makes people feel like gay people deserve to be discriminated against, or don't deserve the protections that other sorts of identities control. And let's be very clear about this. What we're saying is that homosexuality or sexuality is a different kind of identity than things that can be changed. It's qualitatively different. If you can change something, it's different than something that you can't change. That's a very important difference when it comes to identity, and one that we've been protecting across the line through all of our speeches. So what happens is you get a world in which people don't think that homosexuality is an identity that needs to be protected. And so in those conservative communities, you get parents who will never accept their children because they think their children are making a choice. To them, it's not, I have a gay child. It's, I have a child who's choosing to be gay who failed at his conversion therapy. My child is a failure. My child couldn't make the right choice. My child has an incurable sin, an incurable disease, and I will never accept him. And when you allow this kind of therapy, you send the message that this sort of idea is okay, that this sort of idea is acceptable, that this is as real as chemotherapy, or as real as a heart transplant that holds a low chance of success. Is that the message you want to send? That the identity of being homosexual is as changeable as recovering from cancer? Is as changeable as like a dangerous heart therapy? I don't think so. I think that's a horrible thing to send. And as long as this room, we think that gay people should be protected, we think that children shouldn't be treated like dirt by their parents, and that we should do everything in our power possible to protect them, we must ban this lie. For all those reasons, I'm very proud to propose. Thank you.